What are you saying, people? Is another episode of the panel.
Are we back?
We are back.
No, are we back?
Well, it's been a minute, you know.
It's been a minute, but
it has been a minute.
We're
back. We are here with special guests.
Mm-hmm.
We have 4 social work students.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, next gen. These 4 ladies here, next generation of social work students.
Yeah, but listen, I can hear a little bit of. I can hear some heartbeats.
Yeah, no, don't be nervous.
Don't be nervous, you know.
Listen,
It's all right, you know.
be relaxed, be calm, honestly. Yeah? So, introductions from left to right.
My name's Paige and I'm a second year BA student.
I'm Susie and I'm a first year undergrad.
I'm Orion and I'm a second year undergrad.
I'm Anna and I'm a first year undergrad.
And I'm Robert, behaviour mental specialist.
Nana, team manager and qualified social worker. So,
Let's clap. Let's clap.
Just before we go in, wait, we keep telling these people.
No, did they like?
Guys, did you like and subscribe? Did you really like and subscribe to Ting? Like, we keep telling you, like and subscribe. Yeah, you see it there? Right there. Instagram, TikTok, our email.
Everything.
Like and subscribe and share. It's free. Cost of living crisis. It's free, man. It's free. Come on.
No, there's no charge in
Yeah,
there.
no charge.
There's no charge.
Like, all of you subscribers, yeah?
Yeah.
They see? They're all subscribers. Come on, guys.
So listen, tell your people like and
Yeah,
subscribe.
like and subscribe.
Tell a friend to tell a friend.
Yeah.
Right. You know
Love that.
Yeah. Hello. But first of all, how you doing, ladies?
Yeah.
How are you? You in a good mood? You feeling good
Good.
today? Yeah.
Happy
Yeah.
How
to
you
be
feel?
here.
Yeah.
Good.
Right, making sure.
You're feeling relaxed?
Yeah.
Kind
Listen,
of.
don't worry, man. Don't worry. You'll be fine. Ground rules before we go straight into it. Do not disclose
Data
what university
protection.
you go to. Yeah. Any cases, placements, data protection. Yeah? All clear, yeah?
Yeah.
Generic conversation, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And listen, be yourself. If you want to raise your voice, if you want to, I don't agree with you.
Yeah.
Just, it's all right.
Talk the thing.
Yeah, man.
Okay.
Yeah, be yourself.
Yeah.
Are you ready, yeah? Cool. Right. So the topic of conversation. So guys, you're going to see it pop up right now. Yeah?
No, below actually.
Or right below,
Yeah.
sorry. Is the social work degree fit for purpose? Yeah? Is it fit for purpose?
Do you want to kick it off?
Well, listen, you already know the thing already. You already know how I feel about the social work degree. So guys, I'm also a university lecturer, part-time. Yeah? And I think from my perspective, I qualified 10 years ago. Social work has changed. The world has evolved. But I feel as though the social work degree is very much outdated. I think the modules that are taught to students, whether you're a bachelor's, whether you're a master's student or frontline, I don't really think it prepares you all properly for what you're going to be dealing with. And when I go and lecture students, I try and make it a bit more dynamic. I try and give you kind of like the real life McCoy in terms of what you're going to be dealing with and how the modules are applicable for when you go out in practice. I'll be real with you, I think it's outdated. I don't think it's for purpose. That's just me.
Silence.
Silence.
All right. Do you know? All right. Let me quickly say something. All right. So you said, is it fit for purpose? I think maybe elaborate a little bit more. Meaning, is it fit for purpose?
So what I mean is in terms of the curriculum. So the curriculum that is taught, the lecturers who are teaching, it's not so much them, but the modules in your first year, your second year and your third year, is it preparing you for when you go out and qualify and you're meeting with families, whichever kind of aspect of social you're going to be going into, is the curriculum making you ready? Because I'll be honest with you, when I've spoken to some students and I've gone and lectured, they're like, Nana, you know what you're lecturing, like, I hear what you're telling me, but some of the modules ain't prepared me at all for, whether being in the first year, second year or third year. So I don't think it's giving the students justice in terms of when they're going out there and get ready for placement.
So when you guys first started, how did you find it at first?
For me, my first year was really good. We did a lot about discovering about ourselves and our own mental health and that kind of thing, which I think is really important before you go into a job that can be quite heavy hitting. The second year, you can see from the attendance levels how people feel about what they're going in to learn. I think that's a really big thing. But placement, I think there should be a small element of placement in the first year as well.
Right.
Not just second year and third year.
Susie?
I think second year, you can't deny it. Second year is all about law. And law is everything. It's the foundation of social work. So I get that. And I think in first year, the work experience thing sounds amazing, especially work experience that you build off your own professional networks. But we're not allowed to do that because it's biased. And I would prefer to be able to do that. To be able to work with you guys would be a massive privilege for me. And I've established that network, but I'm not allowed to. Even if it's a 3-day, very informal shadowing work experience, I think it would be still very valuable. One thing we're learning in first year that I'm enjoying is equality and diversity in social work practice. We need to know how to relate to people from all different walks of life. So I think that's great. I enjoy that.
Okay.
Ariane, what's your take?
I think for me, first year really challenged me to look at myself and challenge my views and my perspective on things. And it helped me really build up my communication skills, build up my confidence. However, doing that role play with your peers is a little bit different to being out in practice. Now, going into my second year and then you start your first placement, I think the knowledge you learn in the degree is really useful and you have it up here, but I think we need to work on using that knowledge in practice and the reality of it. So I think theory is massive. So when I was doing my theory module, I was like, okay, like I'm learning about it's really interesting, I'm taking it all in. Going into placement, you're constantly using it. But I think possibly using case studies and linking it up in the degree rather than just like, this is this theory, this is what it means, but let's put it into practice. So I think we lack the practical side of things. You get put into a placement and it's like, okay, now we're in the real world. These are real people's lives. This isn't fake.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with you on that because practical work is important. I feel like we need a lot of role play within the class with the students. Getting involved in role play is important. Especially me, I learn from visual and doing rather than theory. I believe, the theory is important, but for it to really sink into my head, I have to put it into practice in the classroom. So it makes me a bit less nervous. Like I'm really, really nervous to go into placement. So I think role play is important.
What I want to ask you all, so you've mentioned a lot in terms of linking theory to practice and role play. In terms of the modules, so Susie, you made a good point about equality and diversity. Do you feel as though that the modules over the course of the 3 years give you justice? Or is it specific modules that you can relate to that you know, actually, okay, I'm going out into placement, I can see what the lecturer is telling me? Or is it on a wide range hit and miss, depending on which course you're doing? Because there's variations of the course. I don't know the modules in the frontline program, but I'm sure that the MA and also the bachelors, they're a lot more similar. So is it about the modules or is it about the style of lecturing? What's your thoughts?
I think it's probably a combination. It's funny what you guys were saying about practical and role play, stuff like that. We actually did that where the uni hires paid actors to come in and do a role play with each person on the course, which I think was really good. It was good preparation. And you're given like 4 different scenarios, all different people from different walks of life, and you don't know what you're going to get. So I think that was a really good preparation that maybe the unis need to be discussing amongst themselves and maybe getting lecturers from other unis to come and present that kind of thing in that uni. So, but in terms of the modules, yes and no. I feel like we living in London and practicing in London, I don't think there's really going to be that much depth that they can teach us in such a little space of time for the amount of cultures, languages, and all kinds of things that we're going to go out into practice and see. For example, like no recourse.
Yeah.
As a person was born British and has British born parents, it's not something that I was even aware of. So I think, that was really important.
Susie?
I was going to say we have like topics such as leadership in social work, and I think that's quintessential to social work practice. If you're not a leader in some range or in some element, you can't help somebody else improve their lives or empower them. And I think you're only as strong or well-versed or capable as your lecturers.
Right.
Like I have black female lecturers and I didn't have that before. I was on a degree before and then I transitioned. And some of them actually do direct interviews with their old colleagues or show us real life cases.
Right. Okay.
So it's not so much as degree, so much as who is teaching you directly. If you have Nana coming into your uni, you have Rob coming into your uni, especially since Rob is interdisciplinary, you can see things from a holistic view. Sometimes it's the lecturers. I have good ones, so I'm glad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, wicked.
The lecturers at my uni, they're really, really good, but everyone has a very different style of teaching.
Right.
So one module I really, really enjoyed was society and social work. So that module was all about diversity, equality, and looking at different groups of people and going through the different stages. But the one thing that I do think as well, with social work, it is so generalized. You learn about such a wide, it's not focused on, which in a sense it's good because it opens the door for so many different things for you to do, but there is a lot of focus. I think personally there's either a lot of focus on children, we're talking about young children, or older people. So I feel like we're missing, so in society and social work we did cover those transition years, the young offenders and things like that, but where that's something I'm really interested in, I feel like it was very skimmed over and it's like, right, back to the little ones. And it's and that's amazing because you do need to learn about child protection and all of that sort of stuff, but it's not, it's almost like they expect you to qualify and be like, right, I'm going into child protection. It's like, that's not necessarily what we all want to do. And it's the same, it's the same with placement as well. Like you don't necessarily, well, you don't get a choice where you go. You fill out your application form based on your work experience and things that you've done in the past and stuff. But the work I've done in the past doesn't necessarily reflect the type of social worker I want to be.
Right.
So
Fantastic point.
Yeah, even though it's very beneficial and it's all new experiences, but at the same time you might finish your degree and have no practical experience in where you want to work at all. And I think as well, I learn through discussion. I'm a debating girl. Like I like it. Debate in the class. I love a debate in the classroom.
That is why you're here.
That is why I'm here. I love a good debate in the classroom. So for me, like, I understand university, we're adults. Like you get given the resources, you go away and you expand your learning and you continue your professional development and all of that. But I love a discussion. So you have some lecturers that love the PowerPoints. They're like, get through the PowerPoints. It's like, one or two questions, we're going to have to move on. But then when I done that society and social work module, my lecturer, she was amazing. She's like, right, guys, tell me what you think. And she challenged us. And I think that's really important as well. Like, why do you think like that? And why if we've got opposing people, well, talk it out. Do you get what I mean? Because there's no right or wrong answer, but let's discuss why you think the way you think. And I think that's what gets your brain ticking and gets you thinking,
That
isn't it? Like,
in.
So yeah,
Definitely.
Anna?
I'm very like Susie was saying, all the lectures, they're all, I believe every lecture's good in their own way, but every student's different and has different ways of learning. So basically you've got students with learning difficulties, anxiety and all these things. And I think some lecturers, they're great, amazing, but I think like some just, I can't express what I want to say, but they don't really know how to explain it to certain students in the right way that they would understand. So like, you know, say an assignment is set and they can explain it in so many ways, but the student still doesn't understand. So it's just finding that well-being. I know we've got the well-being and that, but sometimes it still doesn't do it. I don't know. That's my fault.
I want to ask you guys two questions.
Actually, wait, before you jump in, I want to ask you, because I think you work a lot with social workers, and you know me and you at times, we clash all the time, But what's your take, Rob? Because you're you know, Susie mentioned you're interdisciplinary.
Yeah.
So you come from different professional hats. You work from education, so you collaborate also with social workers.
Yeah.
What is your take? Because these are the social workers that you have discussions with, you know, on when you're working with your own cases.
Yeah.
Like when me and you, do you know what I'm saying?
Well, as many of the young ladies have said, I feel the industry is very much behind. I think it's about 6 or 7 years behind. Wow. Yeah, I don't think they're keeping up with the times in terms of the teaching. Because the question I was about to ask the guys was, it seemed, do you find the curriculum or the teachers quite regimented, and also as well, do you think it lacks the variation in the way it's being taught to prepare you? Because remember, being a social worker is about, especially when you study, it's about you're being prepared to go out into the field. Now there's the paperwork side, and then there's the practical side, right? Yeah, but the paperwork side and the practical side, they're both important as each other. But let's just keep it real. When you're going to Timmy's house now, yeah,
Timmy, innit?
right?
Timmy's the guy,
Right?
Yeah.
When you go to Timmy's house now, and then there's a phone call. He's not going to school, or he came home with a mark on his face, or there's some form of domestic violence scenario, whatnot. All that, the paperwork side don't count right now, you know. It's how are you dealing with it when you go to the house? How are you mentally? How are you emotionally? Are you in a good mood that day? Yeah. Do you have stuff going on at home? You know. So, do you feel confident on that doorstep, or when you're about to go to the house? Is it safe? You know. So, I don't know. Do you feel they get you ready for that? And if not, what does need to change?
Yeah.
So I'm sorry to go a little bit deeper.
No, it's a good question. No, you have to answer.
That's my biggest fear.
Go on, yeah, go on.
That is my biggest fear. Because I'm also worried I'll make the wrong decision because of how I'm feeling.
Yeah.
So it's important to get that support.
Yeah.
Definitely. Yeah.
I think that links to what I said before about having practical from the first year. And I do think actually my uni did do shadowing, but it was only for like 6 weeks.
Okay.
So we had 3 different options: shadowing, advocacy, and mentoring. So you could choose. But I don't know. I feel like we do need to shadow social workers. We really do. I don't know. The practical stuff. 70 days, I don't know if it's long enough. Even the 100 days, I don't know if it's long enough. I don't know if it's long enough. No,
different realm here. Okay.
And that's me. That's me
days.
saying it, thinking to myself, "Oh my God, 70 days." I'm thinking, "Oh my God, I'm gonna have to do 100 days." But actually, now that I've finished my placement after 70 days, I'm like,
it's not enough.
wow, I could have done so much more.
Yeah.
If I was going all the way through, I could have done so much more.
Susie?
I was going to say there's loads of like fantastic students in my class that aren't brilliant essay writers, but they would be great social workers. They would be able to get through the system amazingly. So sometimes so much is placed on academic performance as opposed to capabilities.
Yeah.
Susie's coming fire today.
I will say everything I hate about uni is what I'm gonna need as a social worker. Like if a lecturer's being harsh because I'm late, that's the reality of being a social worker. If my assignments there's too many of them, that's the reality of handling a social work caseload.
That's right.
And one thing that's good about the degree that I hate but still gonna be good for me as a social worker is group work. I don't like group work. That's the problem, but I need to develop those skills. So a lot of the things that irritate me about uni actually are preparing me for social work practice. But in terms of it being outdated and the work experience and stuff, I think because I'm so new to the profession, I don't have good enough evaluation to put forward. Yeah. So I need like more experienced people to let me know what it looks like ahead.
What did you guys expect when you first got into this? What did you actually expect to be taught in that classroom? Like, what was it that you thought, okay, this is how it's going to be?
I thought that social work would be very discussion based. I was like, social workers, it's almost like you're an expert in people, if that makes sense. Like you're an expert in working with people. So for me personally, I didn't really know what to expect. I'd always kind of been in that health and social care field prior to starting this degree. So I thought, okay, what's the next step for me? And that's what really pushed me to say, okay, I'm going to go and do a social work degree. But like you said, academically, second year spun my head in terms of like the marking criteria goes up and what you were producing in your first year, and then you get your second year assignments back and it's like it lacks criticality and bits and bobs. And then there was one particular assignment I actually took to learning support. I'd never sought help from learning support before, but I thought, you know what, I'm going to give it a go. Let's look at my structure. Let's see where I went wrong. They looked at it and they were like, oh, so-and-so marked it. I was like, yeah. Oh, a bit harsher than the others. And I thought, but you know, and I'm just like, you know what I mean? I'm like, okay,
That's
but
not fair.
it's like, where's the kind of show me where I went wrong kind? But again, in practice, I thrive in practice. I thrive working with people. Like, I'm a real people person. I can have that approach with you and I can resonate and relate to you in that sense. But academically, I'm still of a good standard, but I'm not up there, if that makes sense.
I want to jump on the back of that because even with me, so I remember at uni, because uni wasn't even straightforward for me. Like there was modules in my first year that I didn't pass. Do you know what I'm saying? That I had to go and retake. And then obviously when I got to my second year, I was like, okay, nah, all right, let's get serious. But academically, I was always that kind of, you know, I wasn't really getting firsts. I was getting, you know, 2s and everything. And then, funny enough, like my third year, I got like a first, and then I got a 2-1, and I ended up graduating with a 2-1. But for me, you can be a social worker, you can graduate with a 2-1 or a first and be the worst social worker. You can get a third-class degree and be the best social worker. And I think when I left uni, although like my PowerPoints, like I've still got them, when I went out there and I was nearly qualified, I thought to myself, you know what, actually, some of the modules at uni, you didn't really prepare me for when I was out there. Like you mentioned about legislation, that law module that everybody has, that prepares you because that's like your bread and butter. You need to know the law, you need to know the procedures. But I kind of feel as though, Aaron, what you said as well in terms of the style of the lecturers as well, because I think one of the things that students sometimes struggle with is that if their social work lecturers are very much outdated as well. So I know for me, and I don't want to be ageist, but I might be a bit of an age thing as well. But also, I think there are some lecturers, with respect, who may not have been in practice for a very, very, very long time. So when it comes to the modules that they lecture for the students, many students feel, well, now I can't really relate and relate to that. But if say you've qualified recently or you still got your hand in practice, then you have an impact in the curriculum. And I think that's the reason why for me, I'm still in practice, but I also lecture as well because I want to be able to give students that, okay, I can tell you what's going on right now and I manage my own team. So you don't feel actually there's no gap. So when I lecture and come in, it's just like, actually, you know what, now I'm glad he's come in because he's actually giving me the real stuff that I'm missing.
I think that's really important as well, especially after the pandemic and now the cost of living crisis. A lot of the lecturers aren't practicing during this time when people are really struggling and when there's a lack of resources. So how do you then navigate that when you're going into practice? You need people to be able to say to you, look, you know what, we can't even help these people how we want to help them.
Can you run that back, please? I think people need to hear that again. Nah, you need to run that back because that's important. You need to say that again, Paige.
So a lot of the lecturers aren't in practice currently after the pandemic and in the cost of living crisis when people are struggling and there's a lack of resources. So it's top down, isn't it?
Do you know, I always say, well, been saying, right, but I always say, like the world is changing, isn't it? Like if you, especially the last 5 years, like we've had quite a few prime ministers. We've got a king now. We've had COVID. We've had the cost of living. Like so much things has happened in the world, and I just think sometimes, even individually, like, you know, we have to sort of like keep up with the times with what's going on in the world, right? And especially like in social work, you know, you're going to be working with families from different cultures, different religions. You know, you might be from the LGBT or, you know, just different variations of people and families, right? And also individually, you also have to sort of like yourself keep up with the times. And so how important is self-belief, self-confidence, and are you being taught that on your courses? Is that part of it?
Well, I have a thing about this. I have a little thing about this because we have had social workers come in and speak to us about what they do, and they do their presentations and stuff like that. I think with social work, it is not easy, and you have to really take care of yourself in order to be a social worker, because like people say, you can't help others if you're not helping yourself.
Right, exactly.
If that makes sense. And from my experience, there have been social workers that have come in and done these talks and been very negative about, because they're burnt out, they're feeling low, they're like, oh, and it's almost like, you want to be a social worker, like you're not ready, you don't know what you're getting yourself into, kind of thing. And I get that, and give me the reality and tell me the truth of social work, but at the same time, tell me what drove you to be a social worker. What drives you to get up every day and go? Because you're coming into this university, you know there's a shortage of social workers, you know we desperately need social work, and you're telling a whole class of 30 how it's probably a bad decision and maybe we should do you get what I mean?
And do you know what, right? Yeah, that's the problem. But I want to ask another question. I do apologize, right? Yeah, when you let's say the last 6 months or the last year, I'm sure, like on social media, in the newspaper news, there's been quite a lot of negativity. How do you guys feel about that? About social work? How do you feel? How do you feel when you hear that? When you see it?
As a student, you're hearing all that.
I'm nervous. Really nervous. I think I'm nervous because when I hear about social workers, I think they're very up there. And that makes me nervous. And the fact that I'm studying to be one makes me nervous as well, because I want to be my best. I want to be, I don't want to make people nervous, but I want to do the right thing by people. I want to make sure I've made the right decision, and that's what scares me the most, is not making that right decision. So I want to be academically and what's the other word?
Academically and practically.
Ready, basically.
I think even what you posted the other day, Nana, about the social worker saying that she wanted to commit suicide and her manager's not taking her seriously. That is serious. Because if she feels like that and then she goes into a situation and makes the quote wrong decision, she's going to get scapegoated in the media, and it's going to be all her fault. And her managers aren't taking that into consideration. What if that does happen to her? We do need a break. I mean, everyone needs a break from everything all the time. Do you know what I mean? That's why we have annual leave. But when it comes to social workers, we're not getting the support right from the beginning. Because even your petition to raise the bursaries for social workers,
that's ridiculous.
In my opinion,
so the other day this,
it's ridiculous. That's what I'm saying. Cost of living, in my opinion, the social work degree should be free.
I want to clap for that. Yes. Hey, she said it, She said the thing, Oh my days.
Do you know, without social workers, there's going to be a big issue in society. So there needs to be more investment into social work.
But it's a knock-on effect, isn't it?
Exactly.
Because if the managers aren't giving the social workers the tools to mentally cope and deal, the social workers that then come into the universities to speak to the students are not going to be giving them the tools.
Are the managers getting that support?
Maybe not. There's someone above everyone.
Oh my God.
The managers probably aren't getting that support either. So it's trickling all the way down.
And you know what?
And it's only going to affect the people with lived experience.
And you know what? That's one thing I want to ask all of you. So, in terms of what you're saying, studying the degree right now with everything that's going on, and do you feel that is that touched upon at uni in terms of, management and supervision and all those sorts of things? Because those are the sort of things that, when you qualify, these are the things that we're talking about. You're all going to be dealing. Remember, you all are the next generation. Do you know what I'm saying? Is that taught at uni in terms of the fact that, this is what your caseload is going to be. This is how, you got to deal with burnout, the importance of supervision. Is that learned?
We've covered supervision.
In
we
practice.
We've covered supervision, but in terms of burnout and, I don't think that's focused on enough.
No. That's what... In your placement, supervision is a big focus, but I feel like that just filters out once you get into the field and you're qualified. But again, it might be dependent on management as well.
Yeah.
Susie, what's your thoughts?
I was going to say, we've learned about professional boundaries, managerialism, self-care, but it's all been essay style. It's all so academic.
Yeah.
So I know it. I know the theory. I've read the
yeah.
articles, but it's quite detached. And another thing is I've never seen like a day in the life of like a social worker. I've never seen like an incident report.
No, that's awful. That's awful.
You only see that on TikTok.
That should be standard. That should be standard.
But why do we have to go to social media to see those things?
So this is what I'm saying. This is the reason why. So the degree right now, like, because you mentioned about TikTok. I mean, we talk about even this podcast.
Yeah.
Like, I've found one thing I've actually said openly that I wish. You see how now you've got different social work podcasts. You see, I didn't have that at university, so there weren't social work podcasts that I could look at whereby I could be like, oh, you know what, this resonates with me, or whereby social workers or maybe lecturers or are given their experiences. Now if you go onto social media, there are people who are talking about social work, who are it's almost as if the degree itself is so rigid. Because for me, Aaron, what you said, there should be a module on burnout or self-care. You should actually have that, or on caseloads. Whether you're going to go into adults or whether you're going to go into children, there should be modules applicable to all walks of practice. If you're going to work with children, if you're going to work with adults, if you're going to go for a youth offending team. I know it's a 3-year degree. Some are 14 months, some are 2 years. So I understand that you can't cram everything in. But there's key things that social workers always talk about. There's key themes that students don't have.
And I mean, look, going to university or doing any form of training course, it's preparation, isn't it? It's preparation for a job role or going out in the field. That's actually quite concerning what I'm hearing now. Right? That it's not part of the course that you have a day in the life of a social worker. That's actually very concerning, because it's like, oh, what do I do? Because some people don't know, right? Remember, some people are not always alert as someone else, whatever, whatnot. But there is something I want to ask you guys, which is quite concerning to me. In fact, very concerning to me. And I just want to because look, I'm all about solutions. I'm all about, positivity, I'm all about, okay, how do we find a solution? We've heard and we've seen, time and time again, especially the last 2 years, there's been quite a large amount of social workers resigning or leaving the industry, all right? And I do believe the next generation have to make a big difference and are going to make a big difference, But caseloads, I feel personally, just me personally, that the amount of caseloads are too much. I believe you can't, there's no way you can perform at the high quality of service, to the families and the young people, and also yourself as well. What's your viewpoint on caseloads, and what have you heard, and how are you feeling about that?
How do you get around that?
Well,
if there's a shortage of social workers, how do you even get around that?
And is it spoken about on your degree? Do your lecturers talk to you about these things? Go on, Susie, go on, jump in.
Our lecturers are very clear about the reality of caseloads. They're very clear about it. Everyone is. It's not something you can deny or hide. I think one thing about social work is I think they should split it in two and have social work according to people's strength areas. So if somebody is a more people person, they can go out on visits, they're versatile, you have that. And then people who do admin, because the paperwork is insane. And then split that out. And one thing our social work lecturer, he speaks about so heavily, is you can't write reports the way they should be written or the way you want to write them. They have to be in a very strict and rigid structure according to what authorities like, so that the local authority looks good on Ofsted. And so it's not as flexible, it doesn't convey the message you need, and sometimes it's very long-winded. So they've told us the reality is frightening, but we still have to go out for it.
All right, what do you think?
Yeah, I think the same. They are quite clear at my university about caseloads and things like that. I think when it comes to working with families or whatever sector you go into, like for example, say a child and families assessment, we get shown the framework, right? Child and family assessment framework. But at university, are we actually shown how to actually write an assessment?
No.
Do you get what I mean? So it's like you're showing the framework, you know what it has to include, but when you're actually going out, unless you get a placement that where you're doing that sort of thing, you might not necessarily get that sort of placement. You're not doing those practical skills. So how, when you do go out into practicing, you get that massive caseload that you're getting. But I know you do a year of ASYE, I understand that, but you're thrown in it. It's like, okay, write your assessment then. You're a qualified social worker and you've got to do it for how many families? Do you get what I mean? And you're then feeling the pressure straight away from the jump. Do you get what I mean? Because it's like, okay, I know what this is. I'm looking at it. I understand it. But do I understand what am I looking for? What really needs to go in there?
Did they not tell you that on ASYE? Do you not have that shown to you?
Guys?
So the thing is...
But that's not part of the degree.
No, I mean when you do the ASYE.
Yeah, so it will be, you'll be protected. So, but they will show you, but Aaron makes a good point in terms of it. At university, they may show you the template and the triangle, but actually, is there an example that you've got in terms of, okay, how it needs to be written? Because Susie said it, that different local authorities will expect you to write how they want to write according to their own template. So it is something that, it's a very, very, very fair point in terms of, it's like, I'm at uni, but okay, this is template. So what does it look like? What does it look like? How am I meant to make sure how is it meant to present? University teaches a lot about linking theory to practice. But when you go out there as a social worker and you make reference to theory of certain things, you could go to court and the judge might say to you, okay, you've made reference to this theory, please tell me how it applies to this particular case. Are you even prepped for that? These are the little intricacies and gaps, do you know what I mean? That students may not be aware of in terms of when you're going out there, okay, theory is good, yes, we know the reason why, how we need to use it, how it's measured, why we're using it, but if you put it in an assessment, you have to own that. What does that theory apply to this particular young person or this family? It's very, very, very big things.
Do you know what? I was talking to this student social worker a couple of weeks ago. Actually, he's a male. So 2 questions I want to ask you guys. So the first question is, he said to me, Robert, there's so much women in social work, he said, sometimes I don't know, bruv. I said, no, bruv, just do it. I said, do it. So how do you feel that social work is very much a female-orientated industry? There are a lot of male social workers. There is quite a few young male social workers. I feel there needs to be more. What's your guys' feeling about that?
I have a big one about this.
Yeah, go on,
I feel like a lot of the top leaders are male. Like a massive, it's disproportional. So there's a proportion of men and women weigh like 85%, 90%. But then in terms of the leaders, the men have a huge percentage. And so I think sometimes there's a bit of that issue. We have this discussion. So there's
you know already,
there's a little bit of that issue. And then also in terms of like, there needs to be a bit of racial reconciliation when we're talking about racial conversations and we're seeing who's in charge of certain areas, because the leaders and the directors need to look like or identify with the areas that they're managing. So I'm just bringing in management a little bit.
Okay. All right.
Paige?
I can probably count on one hand the males in my cohort. I feel it's so important. I mean, equality and diversity. We need males for males, but we need males for females as well. Because there's 2 different perspectives there. But we need both. It's like, the ideal family has male, in what's the word? So the ideal was that you have male influence and female influence. That's from family, so that it doesn't have to be a mother and father. It could be your uncle, it could be whoever. That's in schools, so your teachers. That is social workers, male and female.
100%,
There's 2 different perspectives and they offer 2 different things. And I feel like for every person should experience both. So I do think there needs to be more males. And again, leadership, it's always the men in the higher up roles. Why is that? Still.
What's your view?
I think similar as well. I do think we need representation from men and women social workers. I think as well, for example, if you're dealing with a situation where maybe a woman, she's been sexually assaulted, she may prefer to have a female social worker, completely understandable. Say if we're dealing with a man who is a victim of domestic abuse, he might prefer to have a male social worker because he may feel, which is not the case, he may feel that the female social worker may be biased, and which isn't the case necessarily, but that's how, it shouldn't be anyway, but that's how he may feel. And I feel like we do need more men to advocate for men.
Okay. Anna?
I was going to say the same as her, because some men don't feel comfortable talking with women and vice versa. So I think it's important to have more males as well.
I was going to add, I did a lot of work on knife crime, and I was part of a national campaign for it. And there was a lot of disadvantaged black young men. To have black men as examples in social work for them, who walk with them through their assessments and create detailed case plans for them, is really liberating, because they see you and they know you. And I think they have a different respect for the black men that look like them or came from where they came from. So I think more men in general would be fantastic, and more black men is amazing, because social work is feminized.
Well, do you know what? Do you want to jump in it? Jump in it. All right, jump in it.
I was going to say, so as many of you know, so my thing is I work with a lot of students with behaviour, youth offending, but part of my role as well is I have to is about interacting and also working alongside many charities and different organisations. So I don't know whether you guys know individually, or even if you've been taught that. I mean, I don't know. So you might work with a young woman where there's, I don't know, domestic violence, or I also work with a lot of female gang-related young people as well. Girl gangs are heavy right now, trust me. Do you know about working with a lot of different charities and organisations? Do you do the research? Do they teach you about that? No?
I've worked with charities, but never any to help with that.
And they don't really teach you about it at uni?
No, they don't.
Because not
that.
You might have a particular case, and you might not be able to get through to that person, or that family. And you might need like a little bit of help. Is that when I first met Nana? I don't know if you know the story about me and Nana, right? We'll be here all day, right? In fact, no, I'll tell you briefly. So when I first met Nana, I was thinking, who's this guy? Right? Because I was working with a young person, and I must admit, I had a little bit of a agenda. I come in peace. Right? I tell you what it was. There was particular social workers I was working with, and they just wasn't cutting it with the capacity. I didn't feel they was helping the young person at the capacity that they should be, because the young person just kept having different social workers. So then another social worker came. So I'm just thinking, who's this guy, Nana? Like, do you know what I mean? But the great thing, why we have such a strong brotherhood, is because first and foremost, it's the friendship, but it's the professionalism. I respect his professionalism so much, and it's, he ticks every box. He's not cutting any corners. He's to the book, and that's how you should be. But obviously I'm from inclusion education. He's a social worker, so the two are coming together, and the two are working together. So just to let you guys know that I'm not trying to preach or anything. Like, you are gonna have to do some research sometimes. Work with different organizations, whether it be St. Giles or Princess Trust or Bernardo's, or just variations of different organizations, like Mind Charity as well, or I don't know, organisation that work with girl gangs, or DV, or so keep that in mind as well.
What I want to ask, because I know we have to wrap up, I want to ask all of you, what would you change about the social work curriculum, or what do you think needs to change? I know it's a deep question. It's not about your unis. Listen, your universities, we're not baiting you guys out, it's not about you, man, It's not about you, man. It's about the course for everybody, UK standards thing, So anyway, so what would you change about the social work curriculum, or what do you think would help students? So I'm going to start with you, Paige.
Don't be shy, Don't
be shy, innit?
We don't have enough time, but I do think that the degree should be free. And there needs to be more support for social work students, because it needs to start from the students and all the way through to qualified social workers.
Susie?
I think that's fantastic. I think we should have a dedicated time set apart for current affairs, just a dedicated time, because anything could happen. So like in 2020, we would talk about COVID, and right now we would talk about the cost of living crisis,
Yes.
or the illegal migration bill. Just time set apart, whether it's week or 2 weeks for that, and or like time set apart for direct campaigning. So let's get involved in one of the campaigns that Nana's making towards the government, because if that bill goes through and then we get the 10,000 signatures,
Big changes.
they're going to need
changes.
support for drafting the campaign, drafting the report, etc. So something direct in terms of current affairs and campaigns means everything to me.
Mr. Dyer. I'll call you Mr. Dyer, innit?
Boy, listen, you know me already, right? Yeah, like a lot needs to change. Like, you know how to mix my words. A lot needs to change. Need to keep up with the times. Like, we need to like face the real facts. Yeah, that when they go out on the field, it is not bread and butter, right? Yeah,
100%,
it is
bro.
not a princess story, right? Yeah, right. It is not Jack and Nori, right? Yeah, I'm using all these mad variations.
Yeah.
Right. It's you are going to be told to piss. People are going to tell you piss off.
No, it's true.
People are going to tell you, go suck your mother. People are going to tell you, what are you doing on my doorstep?
Yeah.
You're going to get to the door,
Yeah.
slam in your face.
Yeah. Thank
You might feel like shit, excuse my language, right? Yeah. You might feel really crap.
It's true.
So for me, I just want them to mentally and emotionally and really prepare them for the field. And it could be, Brad, you know what? We're going to do a week of practical visits. And as you said, and that could be like...
Brother! Oh my days.
Because it's a start, innit? It's a start. So it might be 5 days, but it might be, okay, do you know what? You're going to work with Bill today, Lorraine on Tuesday,
Timmy tomorrow.
Gavin on Wednesday, Julia on Thursday.
Bro, Timmy as well.
Yeah, Timmy in it.
Timmy as well, innit?
So, but at least you're working with a different variation of different social workers from different cultures.
No.
You might go to like a Bengali
Yeah.
part of London. You might go to like a Muslim part of London, an ethnic minority. You understand where I'm coming from? So just keep up with the times, come on, guys. Do you know what I mean? So yeah.
For me, there needs to be new practice models. Yeah. I've got my model out, street social work practice model. Yeah. It's innovative.
Yeah. Part the team.
Yeah. Because it's not that the old models, we shouldn't be learning them, but it needs to be more current. So you need new practice theories to deal with what's going on. So new practice models, new theories. You need social workers who've got ideas to come in and just shake it up. You know what I'm saying? So that's my view. Ariane? That's it.
Yeah, I think start focusing more what's going on in the real world, look at the reality of situations. I do think we need to stop skimming past certain groups of people, have more focus on other groups of people. It's not just about young children, it's not just about older adults. We need to get somewhere in the middle with that as well, because I do think that is a big issue in society at the moment that people are facing real challenges with, and I feel like in the social work degree it's not necessarily focused on. So working with those sorts of people and just being a bit more practical.
Anna?
I'm focusing more on people with anxiety and learning difficulties. I think like they could really be good in the practical, but they're lacking academically because of their difficulties, and I feel that we need more support for them and the emotional support as well. And also the role play, like I said before, is so important. So when they go into practice, they you know, if they suffer with anxiety, at least they've had that emotional support and that role play, so they can feel more at ease and they can think more straightforward on how to deal with that case. That's my...
And I think that's a good point, you know, because I do know quite a few social workers that talk about there's not enough SEN actually in the actual modules, you know, because you are going to be working with quite a lot of special educational needs.
In fact, we haven't really spoken about that actually SEN.
True.
That's really important.
Yeah.
Listen, people, the panelists, thank you very much, panelists.
Thank
you.
Absolutely amazing episode.
Amazing.
Yeah. Social work students, you guys are the future. Yeah. So please do tune in to this episode. I think lecturers as well, please do tune in. No disrespect to any of you. We're just talking up the thing, saying how real it is. Yeah. But listen, you like and subscribe to the panel. If you want to come on the panel, DM me and Rob to socialworker@mentor@gmail.com.
Yeah,
See it there.
make sure you're talker.
Yeah. We're on TikTok, Insta, we're on Spotify. Where's the Apple thing coming up, man?
Oh, in a few weeks.
In a few weeks. So we're going to be on Apple. So, yeah. So, guys, thank you very much. We'll see you soon for the next episode.
See ya.
Peace.
Bye.